Do you have a virtual reality helmet? Virtual reality is VR. You don't need a VR helmet for this PS5 game. However, without the virtual reality helmet, I get bored. Maybe the horror and humor were the greatest elements for virtual reality helmets. You should be able to guess why. By wearing a VR helmet, you get that bias about virtual reality enough to have a bigger balance between horror and humor. It's sufficient for me to play the Persistence Enhanced in my small bedroom without VR, virtual reality equipment. Of course, the PS5 game is awkward to experience, and whatever fantasy you see in the PS5 game is less real and more physical. Enemies in the game can behave like fools just from their choice of body language. Keep in mind that liars can still be very physical, strong, and combative. Even when there's something like reality for an enemy, you have to constantly turn around and get punched around into unknown corners of engineering for a UFO against black hole territory. I know, I'm supposed to be scared or laughing, but there's nothing really funny about all this. More humor could have been helpful for the dull, scary moments. Your hero is a clone, and she sure doesn't entertain me very much. It's to be somewhat expected from a clone who doesn't feel much pain without expressing neutral carelessness. She says some outrageous things with a low, calm voice that I don't consider well for her robotic sanity. Fighting enemies feels cheap for a reason. The Persistence Enhanced is a cheap, low-cost download, and you can find some meaningful battles on occasion. However, there's a flaw with the Persistence that I can find even in some of the best first-person shooter games. First of all, for every horror game, or for every comedy game, you get false alarms. You may notice that some objects can be your possessions, while other objects only look like possessions when really your hero is not interested in them. I'm sure the Persistence is a lot more like a horror game than a comedy game. What it is that a horror game can still be humorous for a little mild excitement during negative tragedy. Recovering health generally makes me sad. In fact, from improving my clone's health, she can get needles stuck into random parts of her frame by an impersonal neon generator. A color like neon is not always so friendly and comforting. Indeed, the usual stereotype of neon colors is basically casinos and cafes. You can still find stereotypes in The Persistence. For the video game audience of gamers and players, just a concept like health is very stereotypical because health in real life is not a concept. Health perhaps should only be a concept concerning the human mind of psychology. Even then, there are limits. Reviews and criticism can be mistaken for the reason of psychology and human mind. For one thing, while playing the PS5 game, you get surprises and shocks during the horror gameplay. Are you honest with me about this? If you are so honest, there would probably not be any surprises and shocks, remember? A gamer's falsehood leads to surprising outcome. Truth is really like factual calculation of virtue. The persistence enhanced has been turning the public's heads concerning the black hole. To date, no human has really seen a black hole. We usually just think of black holes as metaphors about overextension and underachievement. Sounds familiar, right? Technically speaking, you get other shapes in the game that are black and dark in the shadows. Does anybody complain about black hubs? Well, until I see a black hole right in front of me, the persistence is completely a fantasy about galaxy and universe. I do find this PS5 game to be less than exciting. I'm not a clone, so my slight frustration is enough to put me out of the universe and back into my home here for clarity of mistakes against imaginary monsters. You do get monsters in the game. However, with all of this overextension and all this underachievement, I feel more empty than some reviewers will ever feel due to my personal poetry and personal philosophy about this game. The persistence enhanced is intriguing. However, I'm still waiting for the powerful context to kick in for my appetite of space and exclusion.